Hey there! I'm making this recording for Miss Young's class and Miss Flax's class, but anyone is welcome to watch it and enjoy it. We're going to do the book, The Rainstick, a Fable. And this book is by Sandra Robinson with illustrations by Peter Grosshauser. The Rainstick, a Fable. The Rainstick, a Fable, is from the past, but it is also from the present. It is old and new, fact and imagination, drawn from the riddles, myths, and rich traditions of West African people and descriptions of tropical rainforest by early adventurers and present-day scientists. The Rainstick was inspired by an early instrument. Before I read any more, let me play you a Rainstick. Ooh, hard to get that all in the camera at once. It's a long instrument. It really does sound like rain. The Storyteller. The boy smiled as he dreamed of a great feast that flowed from a magic drum whenever he beat upon it. He smelled fragrant fufu, a creamy food made from yams, and licked his lips. But his tongue was rough on his dry, swollen lips, and his stomach growled with hunger. The dream ended abruptly. He opened his eyes and stared at the walls of his family's hut, dark from the smoke of many fires. He rolled over on his back and, holding his breath, listened anxiously. He waited until his chest ached, and then with a gush, the air rushed from him. No, the comforting rhythm of rain tapping on the roof was not to be heard. The boy moved through the opening of the hut. Outside he stretched and yawned like the lion after a morning nap and anxiously searched the sky for rain clouds. But the blue reached unbroken to the line where the sky and earth came together. There were no clouds in the sky. He dipped the hollowed-out gourd into the water jar by the door of the hut. The gourd scraped the bottom of the pot. Scrunch, scrunch. He thought, my mother must still be at the river getting water. The boy remembered how the river once flowed freely and murmured its happy song. In his mind, he sees a small boy splashing a woman. Her laughter is like the sound of little bells. She stops rinsing her clothes at the river's edge and dashes into the shallow water. She gathers up the boy and hugs him tightly. As she spins in a circle, he throws open his arm and leans back to look at the sky. And that's what's happening there in the picture. The mother and the boy are playing in the river, and the boy leans back to look at the sky. Remembering how good the water felt, the boy raised his hand to wipe the water drops from his face, but his smooth, dark skin was dry and hot from the relentless sun. The boy heard laughter of the woman as they passed his hut. They were on their way to tend to the crops in the field, but their laughter was not like tiny bells. It was cruel and harsh, and punctuated with words that pierced like the spear. He turned his back to them, but the words still found their mark. The woman spoke of his father. His father was a leader in the village. He was the rainmaker. When the boy was small, each year the good rain had come in its time. Green and robust, seedlings burst from the earth, and under the ground the yams ripened full and sweet. Babies grew round their mother's rich milk. The people feasted. Laughing, singing, and dancing and storytelling filled the village. The river flowed full between its banks and added its voice to the people's happiness. And on this page, we have a picture of the artist rendering of what the village may have looked like. We see the huts. No electricity. No electricity. They're living in the huts. No running water. They're living in the huts. But the clouds that had brought the rain no longer visited the sky above the village. The sun was hot and the winds dry. Now the seedlings struggled through their hard-baked earth. For a while, the people did not worry. They carried water from the river to relieve the thirst of their plants. But the river's voice grew quieter and less water flowed between its banks. Now the river no longer flowed, but pooled in muddy, shrinking puddles. That's not a river. That's a muddy puddle on the ground. Like the elephant that digs for water in dry times, the people dug in places that had once held water, but only dry sand trickled through their fingers. Even his father's rainstones had been unsuccessful in bringing the rain. On his way to the river, the boy walked the long way through the huts of the village. He passed by the hut of the storyteller. The old man raised his hand and beckoned to him. The boy liked the old man. Although his hair was white and his back stooped, his thin, wiry body was still strong. The storyteller had seen many places and knew many things. He told of kings and kingdoms that had great streets, broad and very long. The streets were lined with many houses that were connected to each other. The houses had several rooms and courtyards. In the palace of the king, the storyteller saw gates upon gates that passed into other places. The king had many soldiers and servants who carried water, yams, and the drink of the palm. And in the king's stable there were horses, their necks proudly arched and their coats glistening in the sunlight. The people of the village frequently begged the storyteller to speak of the markets. He would smile and patiently recite the exotic goods he had seen. A cloth that flowed like water and was woven with many colors. Stone and glass beads. Fragrant spices with smells that made a person's mouth water. And shells from the ocean. The boy paused before entering the storyteller's hut. He remembered past nights of the whole moon when the people gathered in the center of the village after their work was done. Talking gaily, the women balanced their babies on their hips and traded bits of gossip. After sipping the drink of the palm tree, the men gathered before the blazing fire. Jostling for the best seats, small children hurried to fill in the spaces. And when all was ready, the people asked for the storyteller. The storyteller walked slowly into the circle and sat on his small, finely carved stool. He did not speak. He studied his eager audience. Sometimes his dark eyes would twinkle like the stars, and the little children would squirm with anticipation. "A riddle," the older ones said. "Listen, the storyteller will give us a riddle." In a strong, clear voice, the old man said, "I have 2 brothers and sisters and cannot see either of them." The people wrinkled their foreheads as they pondered their answers. The boy had been very young on the night when he responded, "My ears and eyes are my brothers and sisters." His father and mother were proud of him. Clearing his thoughts, the boy joined the storyteller in his hut. A fire burned and the acrid smoke made his eyes water. There's the boy and the storyteller in the hut, and there's the fire. The storyteller did not look at him for a long time. The old man studied the flames of the fire and watched the tendrils of smoke rise like ghostly snakes to the thatched roof of his hut. He looked briefly at the boy and then, having made up his mind, removed the pouch from around his neck. He held it in his clenched, gnarled fist close to his chest. Signaling for the boy to open his hand, the storyteller laid the pouch gently on his flat palm. And in that picture, the storyteller is putting the pouch on the palm. I wonder what's in the pouch. Take a minute and think, what could be in the pouch? Let's read on and find out. The boy waited patiently until the storyteller nodded his head. Then he reached into the pouch and slowly withdrew a single perfect feather. It was blue, but in the firelight it reflected many colors. There's the feather. The storyteller said, "This feather belongs to the bird that lives in the place of rain. There must be great power where this bird lives, for the rain visits every day. The trees grow so tall they hide the sun." The boy looked in wonder at the old man. The storyteller paused and then continued. "Perhaps if a man journeyed to this place where the bird lives, he could return to his village with the sound of the rain." "In what direction would a man travel to find the home of the bird?" the boy asked. The storyteller rose slowly to his feet and moved to the front of his hut. He motioned for the boy to join him, and stretching out his arm, he pointed to where the river, slender as a thread, joined the dark blue line of the horizon. "That is where a man would go." "That is not so far," the boy said brightly. "A man could walk there and return the same day." The storyteller was silent. There's the storyteller pointing. Suddenly the boy's face fell with disappointment. But a boy cannot undertake the journey of a man. The storyteller looked sternly at the boy. "Your father is in danger. There is little food left in the village. As the people's hunger grows, so does their fear and anger. They spit bitter words at him now, but the words may turn to blows. The sound of rain must soon return to the village." Holding back the tears of fear and pain, the boy slowly nodded his head and turned to go. "Wait," the storyteller said. "A riddle. A slender staff touches earth and sky at the same time." The boy wrinkled his brow and shook his head. "Carry this riddle with you on your journey. It will not weigh much." The storyteller watched as the troubled boy followed the path through the village. Part 2 will be about the journey.